Hello Reborners, my name is Karen and this is Making Reborn Dolls with Karen. We're back to do part 2 of our series on making a doll together, and I have chosen Logan Awake. He's a real-born doll from Bountiful Baby. He's modeled after a real baby. I don't know if his name was really Logan or not, but this is him. He's not the best looking baby in the world, but a lot of people like him. So I'm going to make him. I have Logan asleep on my shelf, but I don't have Logan awake. So I'm going to make him. And these are his legs. They're the ones that go with his body. Yes, they are. I'm just checking. And these are his arms. They tell on the rim. There's a code number and the name. Now, some older kits might not have the name on the limbs. They might just have the number, but it should correspond with the head anyway, the number that's on the limbs. But these are his original limbs, and he has already been sealed and baked 2 times. When we put the sealer on, like you saw me do in the last video, we then have to bake the doll for 8 minutes at least at 265. And we talked about setting our ovens and all that. So once he's baked, you have to let him cool completely till he doesn't even feel like he's been heated. Then you have to turn him over because you're putting your pieces down kind of flat like this in the oven. So you'll turn it over to this side and you'll bake him again. Some people even bake a 3rd time. If you get him out and he doesn't feel completely just textury, it puts a texture on them. I'm not going to say they're rough, but they're sort of a little bit rough. I don't know how to explain it. But if they don't feel just totally dry and textury, I mean, if there's any gooey to them at all, you're going to bake them a 3rd time. And what you're going to do is just turn them back over and let them cool completely and then bake them again. With the Gemini sealer, they actually advertise it. If you can, I don't really remember the temperature. I don't try to do it myself. I think it's too hot and too long. But they indicate a temperature and an amount of time. And they say if you can achieve that, you can do 1 bake. But I don't try to do that. I do the 2 bakes. If you can't achieve your hottest temperature that you want to get, 265 at least, more bakes will sort of take up the slack a little bit. So, or a longer bake. A longer bake can take up that little bit of slack if you're not quite making it to 265. But the way that they usually test on a doll to see if it's fully cured is after you have fully, well, you won't have it fully painted, but let's say you put 1 coat of paint on this doll and then you baked it and you're not sure. You just don't feel sure if it's cured right or not. You can just get a sponge or a cosmetic round, one of those little cottony cosmetic rounds, or a paper towel or just anything. Wet it with water only, squeeze out all the water you can, and wipe across your doll. You know, we're not talking scrubbing. We're just talking wiping. If you get paint off on your rag, then your doll is not cured. You're going to need to bake it again. So that is a test. I don't do it anymore. I used to do it, but I just don't find it necessary anymore because my doll gets cured. But anyway, the first thing I like to do to my doll when I get it is crease it. And that's because you can see the crease lines so extra good right now. All over this doll, you can see every little line, even in the fingers, between the fingers, everywhere. It's the best time to do your creasing. And once again, I use a pencil. We went over this in the last video, but we're going to recover it. I use a pencil to do my creasing because it stays better than paint does. And I want to get a certain brownish red color because I tried the purple. Now, you should try colors if you don't like this color. You can try it out on a piece of paper or your paper towel first and go, man, I'm not sure. You know, but there's just a wide variety of purples and reds, and people do crease with those colors. They even crease with browns. So you just pick the color that you want to crease with. This is my color because I like this color. It looks the best on the doll. I can show you Alma. I've already creased her. You can see on her arms and legs. It's very, very I don't want to say shallow. That's not the right word. It's very, very subtle. That's the word I'm looking for. I don't like dark creases, but the creases usually show. You can see on this leg all the little lines in her leg because I've creased them. And also on the back here. It's not bold. I don't like bold creases. They look ugly and fake. All we're trying to do is highlight some of the little special things about your doll. And creases is one of those things. You know, if you just painted this limb with just colors, you wouldn't see these creases hardly at all. Now, if you don't like the creases, if you think a certain crease is just ugly or weird, don't crease that one, because you don't have to crease every crease on your doll. Now, we're going to use our little pencil sharpener we got from Walmart. Very cheap, for 69 cents. I believe that was the price. It might have been 67 cents. I don't know. But we just want to get our point a little bit sharper. It's a little too dull for my use. It's a little too round, because we want to make sure we get the pencil down in the crease before we start making our line. So this is a little bit too dull. So instead of using this one has 2 holes in it. This big hole this is a pencil sharpener for kids to put in their little pencil box at school at their desk, so they don't have to get up and go to the pencil sharpener every time they need a point on their pencil. But this big one is for kids who use those fat pencils. They have to sharpen theirs too. Little kids in kindergarten and 1st grade, I think, use fat pencils. And then after that, they start using the skinny pencils. This is a skinny pencil, but I'm still going to sharpen it in this fat one, because you see how tiny my shavings are. Most of them are very, very tiny. The only time you need to use this little one is when you have no point at all on your pencil. If it was flat like this, or the pencil point was completely broken off to flat, you'd have to use the small one. But the small one just eats away your pencil too fast. And all I really want to do is make this point a little bit sharper. So I'm just going to put it in this fat side. You just kind of center it in there and just kind of slowly turn it and check it every now and then until you see if it's to the point that you want. And I don't want a super sharp point. I just want it some sharper than I already had it. It takes a little twisting, but just a tiny bit of your pencil comes off. I'm back there. That's pretty good right there. I've actually sharpened away most of my pencil on that little side trying to get a point on it. And that was when I was doing hair, but still, a lot of the pencils, I don't even sharpen them hardly ever. I just use them the way they are. But now, what we want to do is we want to highlight some different things on this doll. We want these fingers to look like they have a division between them. See, right now they almost just look like molded plastic. They're just too much the same. You can tell they're stuck together. We want it to look like your hand would look if your fingers were together. You can see a division between every finger, and it's darker. So that's what we want on our doll. We want to be able to tell that their fingers we're looking for the illusion that their fingers are just touching and not really molded together. So I'm going to start with this first finger right here, and I'm going to make a line there. Now, if you didn't seal your doll, you're not going to be able to crease with a pencil. Yes, you can mark on your doll. It will still mark on your doll, but it won't make a good crease. It'll be skippy. You'll get line, nothing, nothing like that. It just won't be a good crease. And so, in order to do some of the things I do, you have to have sealed your doll. So if you've chosen not to seal your doll with a rough type of sealer, then you're not going to get any pencil on it. You won't be able to crease it, or with a pencil. You can still crease it with paint. Now, when I get through with this, I'm going to show you. It won't be this dark once it's baked, but now the fingers look a little more separated. They actually look like maybe they could actually be fingers that are just touching each other. Now I'm going to also do these little lines on the fingers. It's the lines that would make your knuckles on your fingers. They're just cute highlighted, I think. And so I'm going to do them on this baby. They're going to look a little bit dark because, now, one thing you need to remember is you're going to control some of the darkness. Some of the darkness is just the color of the pencil. But you can control how dark or light it actually marks by how hard you press down, and also how bold your line, if it's going to be fat or really, really skinny. It's going to be determined by how sharp your pencil is and how hard you press down. I just try to use a very light touch, and if it looks that bold, I usually take either a swab or a kind of flat tip brush like this, and I just brush it. And when you brush it, it gets lighter. and it softens it, and it sort of obscures the ends a little bit where you can't really, and I'm not going to say you can't tell where it starts and ends, because you can, but it's not as bold. See, now it's much lighter and softer and feathery looking. And we're going to do that to all the fingers on the outside. We're just going to make a little line in each one of those little creases on the finger. I can show you a finished finger, but I'm not sure online you can even see the pencil. Some of the enhancements you can only see because they're on bare vinyl and they're very dark. But once they get baked or they get paint over them, I can still see them, but you can't see them. And that's just the way it's supposed to be. Everything gets lighter when it's baked. Keep that in mind. That doesn't mean go super dark because you're going, oh, well, it's going to get lighter. So I'm going to do these little dimples on her fingers because they're cute too. And when they're highlighted, you can actually see them. They won't be that dark. Now, she's got my sleeves. I put on a long sleeve shirt today. It's getting a little cooler outside. So anyway, she's got a lot of different little lines on her hands. You can do them or not do them. It's a choice. I like to do them. If they're there, I want to do them. Now, some dolls just have 10,000 little creases. Aspen and Leaf and Ashley and some of the little preemie dolls just have too many creases to do every single crease. They just look like a total wrinkle. But we're just going to go around the doll's hand on all sides, and we're going to try to just enhance as many of them as we feel like we want to. If you don't feel like you want to, if it's too many for you or you think it's going to look weird, just don't do them. You don't have to do any of them. Creasing is an option. So if you get a few creased, it's going to look a little better than if you don't crease it. But if you don't want to crease at all, that's perfectly all right too. If you go, hey, this is my first doll, I'm not going to crease. Creasing is very easy, and when you're not trying to show it to people and take your time and explain it, it's kind of fast to do too. It doesn't take very long to do it. But one thing you have to do right after you crease is bake. Because if you try to put paint over the top of these creases, they're just going to wipe off. The paint is wet and it has paint thinner in it. I'm also going to trace around where these fingers touch the hand and stuff. We want that to also look like it's not one big molded piece of plastic. We want it to look like it's actually just fingers touching each other. Some of these you can't get to with the pencil. It's very, very hard. You can bend the fingers up a little and down a little, but if you can't reach it, just don't crease it. You don't have to do it. It's not necessary to crease. It does look a little better creased, but every single crease is not going to get creased anyway. There's just too many of them. So you just pick the ones you want to do. And if you have some really superficial ones, like here on this side of this arm, it's very shallow and flat almost, but it is indented. You can do what I call a shadowy crease, just like when you was a little kid. I don't know if you colored with colored pencils, but I used to do it with my crayon. We'd turn it almost on the side of the point and kind of just go really, really light and make a shadowy kind of lighter color. Well, we can do that with this pencil too. We just make a little smear across the doll, kind of like that, and then we just use our our brush, and we brush it. And it can, sometimes these little superficial ones go away, and sometimes they don't. So if you don't want to do them, just don't do them. And we're going to do the one right in her elbow, the inside of her elbow, that is. And then these up here that are really, really on the inside of her arm, they're never going to show because the arm is going to be up against a body like this, and you won't see that. I don't care what position you put the arm in, you're not going to see it. But this lower one and this one up on the side right here, you might see them. You can still do them. They're just not going to show when you get done. But these that are just a little bit like sticking out right here, you will see those. And people like to see things like creases and veining and stuff. They like that. A lot of people like modeling too. I just hate it. I won't do it. Because for one thing, you're not going to sell every doll you make, not for your asking price. And if you don't want to go down, let's say you want to keep that doll till it sells for your asking price. And you might have it 6 months, a year before it sells. And you're looking at that doll sitting on a shelf or something, unless you're one of those people that box up their dolls, which I do not recommend. I've done it before, and then people want more pictures and you have to unbox them. It's just not good. So anyway, that's a creased hand, right? The arm and hand. So now we're going to move on to a leg, and we're going to crease it. Sometimes the legs are a little bit easier, and sometimes they're a little bit harder. This has a very deep bend in it, which means we may not be able to crease in the very back of this knee. It's not going to show anyway because of the way that it's so tightly bent. So we'll just do the sides of it, because it's going to get very dirty in there if we try to put pencil in there, because we can't get the pencil down in there correctly. So what's going to happen is it's just going to make a big mark on the upper part of the leg. So I'm just going to do this side part. And if you didn't get enough sealer in there, which it looks like I didn't in that crease because it's so deep, you're not going to get a good mark anyway, so you might as well not mark it. The legs themselves don't usually have that many creases. They have a few, but they don't have that many. And whether or not you want to do them, that's just a choice. And you can absolutely skip this step if you want to. I like to do it because I like the result at the end. They look way more subtle at the end because paint has went over the top of them. And they just diminish a little as you brush across them and stuff. So, oh my goodness. I'm going to do these in his ankle. And on the sides of his foot and stuff. I like to do as many of them as I think will look good at the end. Not every one you do is going to come through to the end. And that's really a good thing, because we probably overdo our creases when we do them. But I try to do as many of them as I can, because like I said, they're not all going to make it. And I want some creases to show. I want them to be more subtle. I don't want them to look like a pencil line. That's why I brush them. You just need a stiff, flat brush like this one. This was one of those highly expensive brushes. But you can get in this... Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to go close the door or something. What did you do? I got to close some doors or something. I can't breathe. It's not silly. Perfume or something. Highly allergic. My sister puts on perfume when she washes up, and man, it just permeates the whole house. It's just, I can't breathe. I have asthma. Anyway, okay, so we're back to our baby now. Yeah, I want to brush these creases and get them lighter, and all you really need is a stiff, flat brush. Now, in that set I was telling you about, they got flat brushes too. So this one's, some of my brushes are been used so much for other things, they don't look very, excuse me, I have hiccups, flat anymore, but they have a flat brush. And if you can't get a brush, just use one of your pointy swabs. They work fine. That's what I did with these. That's why they're so colored on the end. It'll take a little bit of it off, and it'll soften what stays on there. Now on the toes, on the top of the foot, once again, if the toe is connected together, I want to put a line there to make it look like they're separate toes. It's a little bit harder on the toes because sometimes they're curled up like this one is, and sometimes they're so curled you can barely even get to them. And on these, right on his foot, there's little lines up close to his toes. They just look cute when they're highlighted to me. Their little feet just look so much cuter highlighted than they do when they're not. And on top of his toes, he's got little lines on them just like he did on his fingers, and I'm going to do them as well. Now that toe didn't get much sealer. I can feel that it didn't get any sealer hardly. Sometimes if I don't get enough sealer in a spot like that, when I go to bake them the next time, I'll just dab a little sealer on there just for a good measure. Okay, now we're going to move to the bottom of the foot. We're going to do the backs of the toes. Just like that. If you can see that on that big toe, I put some in that first little crease on the big toe there. Some of them you won't be able to get to very well. He's got, his toes are curled up on this foot so we can get to all of them. But sometimes they're curled down and you can't get to it, so you can't do it. And I don't know, it's iffy if you're going to be able to do some of them. So you don't have to worry about, oh, I can't get that particular crease. Oh man, I can hardly breathe. Now I'm doing the little cracks on the bottom of his foot. Believe it or not, they're super cute creased. They look a little like pencil lines when you first do them, but after you brush them a little and you've put a few coats of paint on them, they don't look like pencil lines anymore. See, they look very pencil-y right now. But I'm going to brush them a bit, and they're going to soften up a little bit. And then whenever we put paint on top of this, it's going to also soften them a little bit more. They're going to get lighter, and even bacon's going to make them lighter. So they won't look so pencil-y, and they won't look so sharp, and they'll just look a little better. I don't put any creases on the face unless they have very, very distinctive lines on their face that look like they just have to be creased. Okay, we're going to do this hand the same way we did the other one. We're going to do these little dashes on, this look like little dashes to me, on the fingers. None of these fingers are touching. I like open hands. They're easy to paint. They're easy to crease. They just look super cute on a doll. A lot of people like balled up fists, but oh, those nails are so hard to paint. And I'm going to do these little dots on the back of his hand like I did on his other hand. And now I'm going to do this, his thumb. And then the backs of his fingers, we're going to do them the same way. See, it goes pretty fast when you're not stopping to show the camera every little step you made. And since I showed you on the first two fingers, the first hand and foot, I don't really see a need to do it on this one. Unless you just, I don't know, some people just want to see everything. People actually comment, you didn't show me the second hand or something like that. And I don't know. Some of these spots are super hard to get to. Just do what you can. If you can't do a spot, don't worry about it. It looks a little better creased, but creasing is totally optional. Now, obviously, you do have to paint your doll, but if you want to use different colors or you want to skip a particular color, you can do that, but you won't get the same result that I get at the end if you do that. And it's totally optional if you want to put 1 coat, 2 coats, 3 coats of each color. It just depends on how your doll's coming out. A lot of what we do is dependent upon how the doll looks. Believe it or not, different sculpts of dolls, the vinyl behaves differently. I don't know if they actually use different vinyl on some of the dolls, but some of the dolls will be a more pinker color, I guess I want to say, than other dolls. And there is this really good artist. Her name is Jackie Ortiz. You might have heard of her. But she brings all her dolls down to white. She'll put these coats of milky yellowish white paint on her dolls, like 10 coats maybe. She just does it over and over until her doll is almost completely white. She said that gives her a blank canvas for every doll. See, I don't do that because, well, for one thing, it's too many layers and too many bakes. And but she does it, and she says it's very, very good. Now, I've never tried it, and I do not intend to ever try it. I don't do things that are labor intensive on my dolls because, like I said, I want to enjoy it. I don't want to be going, well, that's 45 bakes now. I wonder how many more I have to do. I don't want to go through grueling things like that. I want it to be easy and breezy, and that's the way I keep it. And I think my dolls look good, and I've gotten very good feedback on my dolls, so I'm saying other people like them too. So there we go. Okay, I didn't do this part on her hand, on his hand. these little lines on the back of the hand. Sometimes we forget to do parts and then we go, well, I didn't crease that. I better go back and do it. If you crease the back of one hand, you need to crease the back of the other hand too, because they need to sort of match. Okay, now we're down to this foot, leg, whatever you want to call it. I always feel around on them to see if the sealer did get, and if you touch your doll in a place where you didn't want the pencil to be, if you rub it real hard, it'll go away. Okay, these toes are all individual, so we won't be doing any creases between the toes. But they're turned up. I hate when the toes are turned up. They are very hard to do anything to them. Even painting the nails is hard. It almost looks like his foot is abnormal, but I know it's not. When you put the stuff inside the limbs to weight it and stuff, it'll, see it's sinking in just a little bit right there, but that won't hurt anything, because when you put the weight in there, it'll bring it back out. Having something actually inside it will stretch it back out. So it's no big deal. It just looks funny right now. I've had them where this was like that, literally folded down like that. But when you stuff them with the polyfill and the glass and stuff, they come on out. Usually. Sometimes you have to sort of hold them as you're putting the stuff in, but it's just something that happens when they bake sometimes. I've actually had heads collapse so much that it caused them to split. That's why I stuffed the heads. See, most of the things we do with our dolls come from experience that not doing it causes some sort of a problem. So you're going to want to do some things that prevent those problems in the future, because it's not fun to have your doll's head split, especially when you're 3/4 of the way finished with the doll and now you can't bake it anymore because it's split. It's very frustrating. But Bountiful Baby is really good about standing behind their products. If you say, you know what, look at this doll head, it is split, they'll just send you another doll head. And sometimes you can fix the doll head you have, and sometimes you cannot. I have actually glued them back together before, because, well, if the split isn't bad, you can usually go on and stuff a little stuffing in there and go on and do 1 or 2 more bakes sometimes, and it won't split all the way through. The split is usually on the inside where you can't see it. And if you can get to the point where you're finished baking it, and you may not be able to root hair, because sticking a needle in and out of a head that has a split in it could cause the split to go on and split all the way through. And trying to avoid the split doesn't work. I tried that on a doll one time, and it just looked weird. You couldn't root where the split was, and it just had almost like if you had brain surgery or something and you had a big scar across your head where no hair grew. It almost looked like that, and it was very weird. Okay, that's his foot, and we're going to do his leg a little bit now. But if you can get to that point where you're finished baking them, you can pencil on hair. And penciled hair isn't as nice looking as rooted hair. Of course it's not. But it is an alternative if you can't paint hair on, because you'd have to bake it. And you can't root hair because it might split the head. And even though it's advised to bake pencil, they say that if you wait 24 hours, it becomes permanent. And I've never had a problem with it when I just wait 24 hours. But I don't do any penciled hair anymore. Hardly ever. Only if I know for sure that a little small child is going to get the doll. And then I'll do penciled hair because, well, they're just going to ruin the doll anyway. Probably. But, and rooting is expensive. But anyway, now that we've sealed our doll, creased our doll, we're going to give him a vein. This is also a great time to give him a vein. And I'm just going to give him one vein. I don't like dolls that are super veined up. They look weird. But one of the most important places, I think, to give a doll a vein is on their coming down on their forehead right here. That's where I usually do it, and that's where I'm going to do it today. What we want to remember about our pencil is you're going to control the darkness and the thickness of your vein by how hard you press down. And it's going to be controlled a little bit by your point. I don't use a sharp point for this because I don't want an ultra fine vein. They're just not that little. Look at the back of your hand and you'll see that your veins are kind of fat. And babies' veins, well, they're not as fat as yours, but compared to the rest of their body, they're kind of fat too. So I'm going to use a sort of rounded tip. It's not super dull, but you would consider this a dull pencil. Compared to this one, it's dull. But anyway, another thing you want to remember about your veins is they are super squiggly. You're not going to make any straight lines. Veins are not straight. That would look super weird. They're wiggly. And so to make our veins on our baby, we're going to make a squiggly, almost like a river. Think of it, if you ever looked at real maps, not Google Maps, but a real map in a map book, they would have the rivers in blue. Well, that's sort of what it reminds me of. They're wiggly and squiggly like S's. And so we want it to come down a little bit on his forehead. But I want to get my squiggle right before I get down there. So I'm going to start way up here because I'm going to root his hair. And even if you're not going to root the hair, you can start up here on the head where you might be going to pencil hair or paint hair. Or even if you're making a bald baby, I still would start way up here on the head. And plenty of people make bald babies. Don't feel bad if you're making a bald baby. There's nothing wrong with bald babies. Anyway, we want to get our squiggle crooked and wiggly the way we want it before we get down on his forehead. Because we don't want to be trying to fix it or change our squiggle pattern right on the forehead. So here we go. We're going to just put our pencil down and I'm going to use a very light touch. And you're going to see it's still very dark. When I'm finished, totally finished with the vein, you should not be able to see it. I will still see it, but on camera, it shouldn't show. If they say if it does, it's too dark. Now, I'm not going to say that's true because I've had veins that I thought looked good that you could barely see or see a little bit on camera. But there's actually artists who say, oh, I take a picture of my doll. If I can see it in the picture, it's too dark. But I don't do all that. I just eyeball everything. So anyway, we're going to start up here on his head. And we're going to try to get our squiggle nice and curvy. See how curvy that is? Can you see it on his forehead? Now, I want him to have a little branch off of his you don't have to put branches. And you can put as many branches as you want or no branches at all. Or just a straight squiggle line like that. So I'm going to give him a little bit of a branch off of his vein like that. Now you can see that super bold, but not to worry. I'm going to take a sponge from up here in my sponges. Well, if I don't knock them all on the floor first, and I'm going to rub it. Rubbing does wonders for your pencil lines. We want to make it disappear beautifully into the background because it is called an undertone. This is one of your undertones that you're going to do on your doll, and it shouldn't show, or if it does show at all, you're going to barely see it. I don't know if you can even see it at all. It's very light and it looks like it's under the skin. And that's the way it's supposed to look, under the skin. So once we put paint over this, it's going to look spot on just right. Now people put them over here on the temples as well. And you can do as many veins as you want or none at all. Now you can also put them on the hands and the feet, the arms and the legs. I don't usually do that, but you can. I've done it before. And usually I want them to show. So I'll put one up here on the shoulder, maybe one on the outer thigh here. And it's optional, whatever you want to do. I'm not going to put any on the arms and legs. I think it's a little much to have that many veins. Now there is another thing you can do called capillaries. The difference in a capillary and a vein is a capillary is an artery and a vein is a vein. So we're going to be doing a capillary together. I'm trying to find that ever so special pencil. Now for capillaries are very Crimson Lake. That's the one I want. Those other two are the wrong color. Now, to make a capillary, it is indeed very, very tiny and very, very squiggly. Almost like, I don't know what to compare it to even. It is so super squiggly. And most of the time, capillaries are on the face. I don't like capillaries because I like the face to just be clean from all that stuff. I don't want modeling on the face. Even if I was going to do modeling on this baby, I wouldn't do it on his face. And I don't want milk spots or any of that stuff on their face because I want the face to be clean from all those things. The only thing that I would actually put on the baby's face would be a scratch. And that's where it belongs, is on the face. But a lot of times capillaries will be over here in the temple area, on the cheeks. If they had closed eyes, they'd be on the eyelids, and sometimes on the nose. You can pick. You can put as many capillaries or as few capillaries or none at all. And once again, you can put as many branches on these as you want to, no branches at all, just however you want to do it. But they're super tiny. And if you can see my capillary, I'm going to say great, because most of the time they don't show. Okay, so that's why I just don't do these. They don't show that well. They have to be super, super tiny, and you're going to want a sharp point. So I'm going to make one on this temple over here, and I'm going to show it to you when I'm finished. It is super, super little. Super little. It's that little. I haven't rubbed it yet, but it's that little, and that squiggly. That's a capillary. I hope you can see it. Now I'm going to rub it, and it too is going to disappear into the background. And then they don't even show later. So if you even get one to show, you're doing really good. But if they're bold, they look strange. Some people even put them on the ears. I don't, but some people do. But that's how you do a capillary. I just don't do capillaries anymore because I just think they're a waste of time. But anyway, Logan has got all of his creases that he's going to get. So now we're going to move on to some paint. And we're going to move to some undertones. Oh, we can give him eyebrows. We can do that. But I don't like to do the eyebrows right now because they may not show if I do them right now, because, well, I can do them right now. I'm not going to, we're going to have to do his, I always use the sandbar brown for the eyebrows because I've seen too many people put eyebrows on a doll in a dark, dark color, and they're scary and bold, kind of like my eyebrows. If you had a baby doll with eyebrows like mine, it looks scary like a monster. They just look weird. And I don't try to do those individual little hairs. It's just too hard. I like wispy little soft eyebrows on a baby. That's what babies have. And it's not so easy to do eyebrows. It's not super difficult, but it's not super easy either. Because one of them is going to be easier for you than the other, depending on if you're right-handed or left-handed. So this one over here on the baby's left side, my right side, is the easiest for me. And I can do that one pretty good and make it look like a baby's eyebrow, kind of. Just by making short little strokes like that. But now the other one is going to be much harder because it's on the left side. And I'm right-handed. And you're kind of working backwards here. So if it doesn't look exactly the same, well, it just doesn't look exactly the same. That's my take on it. It's going to look close. And sometimes if you're having trouble with getting the second eyebrow even to look like an eyebrow, try turning the head upside down. I'm going with that. Now you can brush those as well. They're going to get a lot lighter as we paint, so I'm not going to brush them. But I think those look pretty good. And they're going to almost be no visible eyebrow at all. It's going to be very subtle. I've noticed babies before, and you can't even see their eyebrows. Now, there are some babies that have very dark hair, and they're hairy. They have a lot of hair on their face. They have hair on their shoulders and stuff. Now, those babies do have bushy eyebrows, but I'm not making babies like that. Now, the next thing we're going to do to Logan is we're going to give him some color on his lips and his nails. And normally, I would rose him up a little too, on his cheeks and his forehead and stuff. But since we put pencil on him, I don't want to risk wiping that off. So we're going to be doing our enhancements in 2 stages. So I'm going to use this little bitty jar of lip nail blush color. And it's made from thinning medium and pretty much only thinning medium in paint. I made this back when there was still Genesis paint. So it's the right color. I didn't have to tweak it at all. So all I did was take a jar of thinning medium, this little small jar, and I took some out so the paint would fit and I could still mix it without making a sloppy mess, because they're almost up to the top, and if you try to mix them, they just slop out, especially if you're putting paint into the thinning medium. So I just took some out, and because I put it in my paints anyway, and so and then I put the paint in here and just mix it up with a toothpick or something until it was smooth. And I've been using this forever and a day. And I'd have a lot more in here, but I took some out to make scratches. I had to add it to thick medium, but it's the right color, so I took it out and put it in for that. And so I've used a lot of it, like that. Otherwise, it just lasts forever almost. In fact, I've thrown away jars that got too thick before I even was able to use them up. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint his lips now. And when we paint the lips the first time, we want to get the most ultra tiny thin layer on there that we can. We don't want it running. We don't want it blotchy or funny looking. You can barely tell there's any paint on this brush. And when it goes on his lips, it's going to be super, super light. So here we go. I'm going to be super careful and take my time because I want to stay within his lip line. I can't stand to see people swipe the whole lip like that. It's sloppy, and it's not, sometimes the whole lip doesn't get colored. Sometimes it's going outside the lip. I'm picky about my lips and nails. Picky. So here we go. I'm going to put it on there, and it's going to be super, super light. It's going to look like a pink color, but not to worry. We have plenty of time to build this color. But you can see this is not pink paint. This is red paint. In fact, it's a bloody red color. It's about the same color as blood. It just, when you put it on this thin, it looks pink. And if you're getting it too thick, if it's not looking very, very translucent and very, very thin and light, then you're getting it on too thick. And the importance of doing a thin layer at the beginning is we do not want it to run. We do not want it to blotch up or be thicker. And the thicker the paint is, the more funny looking it looks on your doll. And yes, we're going to get it thicker later, but we're going to make sure that before we do that, we have a good base of very thin paint first. If this color completely fades away in the bake, no big deal, because it's still on there. I theorized in my mind that because this is color inside of paint thinner, thinning medium, not paint thinner, that you could just paint the first layer with thinning medium, but I don't see any point in that when you could add some color. Probably the color is going to show, and it will act as a guide for our next couple of coats of paint. You won't have to be so picky and so slow doing it because you will have the color to follow. It'll be very light color, but it will be color. And we want to make sure we get the entire lip line. Probably none of y'all are as old as me. Some of y'all might be nearly as old as me. So you might remember when ladies used to put their lipstick on way out of their lip line because they wanted bigger, fuller lips than they had. And they just cream it up here above their lips to try to make it look so horrible. And we don't want to make our baby look like that either. Also, we don't want to miss any of the lips and make it look like we don't know how to paint straight, because believe me, at the end, it's going to show. And if you don't get the lips done correctly every step, there's going to be a deficit in that lip that you can't catch up later because you just don't know how much to put on there. You don't know exactly where to put it. It's going to lap over a little bit, and you're just not going to like it. So on your first couple of coats, you have to be super picky and just take your time. We're dabbing on tiny bits of paint at a time to give him the best looking lips that we can. And it's going to be super light. And I will show you when I'm finished. Now there's a part on the bottom lip that a lot of people, I've seen their dolls. Sometimes I scroll through doll sites to see what other people are doing with their dolls, to see how they look compared to my dolls and what kind of prices they're asking for their dolls and stuff, so I can compare mine and go, am I charging too much or not enough or whatever? And I see that people paint too much of the lip. They're not, it's not really part of the lip. Where your lip ends, you can see it on my lip and you can see it on yours. There's a little puffy thing underneath it. As you get older, the puffiness of it goes away because you lose a lot of your collagen in your body. But babies have that, and you're not supposed to paint that part. That is not part of their lip. You can clearly see the lip line when they're bare vinyl like this. That's why we do it so early in the process, the first coat, because we do not want to go out of his lip line. It does look very strange at the end. If you got too much on there, just wipe your brush on your paper towel like this and go back and pull a little bit of it off. You need a very tiny brush like this. And that they have brushes like this in the set that I was recommending to you. I've just taken them all out and put them up there because I only use this brush because I have it. But there's no need to go off and buy some. I mean, you can buy them expensive sets. Dolls by Sandy has an awesome set, but it's like $219, I think, which is outrageous for the price. I mean, it's a great set of brushes, I'm sure. I don't have it, so I don't know exactly how they perform, but I can tell you that the only reason I use this brush is because I have it. If I didn't already have it, I wouldn't be buying it. I'd be using one of the, because that's what I did before I had this brush, is I used one that was in my set, and it works fine. But this brush cleans up a little easier to me, so I use it. Okay, that is his lips one time. I think I've got the whole thing. I had to take my glasses off to see this fine detail because, well, I need new glasses, and I can't get them right now, so I don't see as well with my glasses as I do without my glasses. Whatever part of the lips you paint this first time, you're going to need to want to paint it every time. Otherwise, you're going to have some weird looking off color coming off of his lips. Now, while he's upside down, I'm going to paint inside his nose too. That's another color that we have to build up. But we don't want to just put puddles and puddles in there. I know in previous videos I did that, but it just didn't work out. So now I just put a little in there and I just swirl it around the edges of his nose. We're just trying to color the inside of his nose. If you don't color it, believe me, it's going to look weird. Now, some people, and Bountiful Baby sells a drill set. They drill out the nose. And I just think that's a big mistake. I have one doll that has a nose drilled out, and it's funny looking. What they do is they take that little drill bit and just drill the nose out, and I think you have a high chance of drilling right through the nose and coming out the front. I just don't think I would risk it. And then they take a dark piece of felt or something and put it inside the head and glue it inside the head right where the nose, it'll cover up them holes. So it looks shadowed. But nobody has a black nose. I don't care who. If you look inside your baby's nose, it's reddish colored. And all I really want is for it to not be vinyl colored when I'm finished. I want it to have a color. So nearly everything we put on this doll, we're going to put in the nose too, not the lips. But anyway, there's his lips painted, and his nose is painted too. You won't be able to see that. See how light it is? It's very, 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 very light. And everything gets lighter when it bakes, so it may barely show at all. And that's okay, because we have it on there. So next we're going to do the nails on the toes and the fingers. Because we want to get them also a very, very thin coat of paint on them. Once again, you can see the nail beds really, really good. And if we don't do it now, then after paint goes on, they're less and less visible every coat we do. One thing you want to do about the nails is you want to get them very, very smooth. As smooth as you can. And it doesn't, once again, it doesn't matter that it's very, very light. The smaller the toe, I've got to sneeze. That smell is making me so irritated in my nose. Once again, we want to not worry about the color as much as getting it covered. We want it very super light and thin. And the smaller the toe, the less paint you're going to need for it. Because, well, you just don't need as much paint on a small toe. I just barely touch the tip of this to the paint. And sometimes that's a little too much. If I'm finding that I'm getting too much on the toenail, I'll dot a little bit on the next nail to get some off of the brush. And that way I don't get too much on there. What happens with the toenails if you paint them too thickly is the paint color, and it's already happening to this big toe. This big toe is too dark. You can see it's much darker than the other two toes. Maybe you can see it, I don't know. But the paint is starting to run, and it's going to run down to the base of the nail. And then when it comes out of the oven, it's going to look like you outlined the nails with darker paint. It looks very sloppy and bad. So once again, if you're getting too much on there, you can pull some of it off by wiping your brush on your paper towel, and it will take a lot of that color right off of there. The drier your brush is, the more it'll take off. And don't worry too much. I mean, don't get one nail super dark and the other one barely anything. But if they're slightly different, you don't have to worry, because at the end, when we're almost finished painting the nails and we're like maybe on the last coat, we can just skip the ones that are darker. I mean, they're going to be pretty much the same color anyway. I have very shaky hands, so I have to balance my hand on the doll hand to be able to paint the nails. The feet are a little different. You can just set the foot down on the table and that steadies the foot. But the hand has to be up in the air like this. It's weird. I can't get it. This is the reason, shaky hands is the reason I don't tip a lot of nails. We're going to try to tip his nails if they're not too crooked. If they have nails that are covered partially colored nails are very, very hard to tip. But when they have their hands are closed up like this, partially covered nails that are just sticking out barely from the underneath a finger or something are very, very hard to paint, and even harder than that to tip. So sometimes I just choose not to tip because I know I'm going to do a sloppy job. And I went years without tipping nails. It's not necessarily something you have to do. Some people think it looks a lot better, but I just don't. They almost look like French manicures to me. And I'm just not sure babies need a French manicure. I mean, I know they don't, but it's supposed to look like the part of your nail that sticks over your finger. It does look a little bit whiter, but this color is not translucent at all. I mean, the tip color. It's a thicker paint, and it's dark and very almost milky colored. It's not white. It's more like an off-white, an ivory or something. And it just looks super fake to me. But I usually do it. Well, I don't usually do it. I do it on some dolls, and on some dolls I don't. If we make every single doll a carbon copy of the last one, I mean exactly the same, people don't have any reason to want to buy your dolls. They go, I already have a doll that has that. I don't want to scratch on every single doll. And I mean, if you're going to put something extra on your doll, make something different. Like if you want to put milk spots, don't also put a scratch or a mole or a birthmark. It's too much, I think. One special feature is enough. And most of my dolls don't even have a special feature. I think they look best without them. I accidentally put a scratch on a doll one time by letting it touch the jar. And it looked so natural and great that I left it on there. And after that, I started liking baby scratches. And I made several dolls with baby scratches. And then I finally realized, I guess you can give every doll a baby scratch, but it'll start to look like, well, she's got another doll and it's got a baby scratch too. Not every baby scratches theirself. Well, they might sometime in their infancy, but not at the moment you captured the doll. The baby, the look. once again, is that something you want to capture in your doll every single time? I don't. But it's okay sometimes. And if you have something on the doll's face, like a little deficit of paint or a little paint buildup or something that you can't correct, a scratch can cover it up. So there is a reason to put scratches sometimes. It's to minimize boo-boos. But you can do them just because you want one too. It's totally a choice. So you just have to decide. Scratches we'll put a scratch on Logan so you can see how to do them. They're very, very easy. They take a few steps, and that's one of the times when I use my heat gun, because I want the scratch on the very top of the doll. I don't want it to be covered by any paint. Whoa, I can't hardly see that toenail. And so I dry it with it takes several layers, so I dry them with the heat gun so that I can go on and put the next layer on and get it just right and not have to bake in between every one. That baking takes a lot of time, 8 to 10 minutes about, or 12 if you have my oven. And then you have to let it cool completely. You don't want to put any paint on even a warm doll, because the paint will dry too fast before you can dab it around and smooth it out. And then you'll have a globby looking doll. We don't want to do anything to make our doll look chalky or streaky or blobby or blotchy. None of that. We don't want any of that in our doll. We want our doll to look smooth and pretty and have a nice color. Now, that's the lips and nails are done. Now, I can also do some things like paint a little on his face, but I don't see any reason to do that right now because he needs a bake, and it has taken an inordinate amount of time for me to do this, creasing and nails and stuff. But when we come back, we'll be doing some of his blushing and stuff like that, his undertones. This is part of the undertones too. Even though nails are not really an undertone, I do them along with the undertones. We'll be doing some blue on our doll. We'll be doing maybe some purple. I don't see anything on it that strikingly needs purple on him. Purple is a iffy color. You only need it on certain dolls in certain situations. I mean, you can put it on any doll, but why? He doesn't even have closed eyes. Eyelid purple is for closed-eyed dolls, really. But what purple does is it sort of shadows your doll. So if there's any deeper crevices on his face or something that look like they need to have a shadowy effect or something, purple will do that. It will also darken an area. There are people who paint the lips purple first, and I've done it before too. Put a coat of purple on it, and then when they put the red on it, it automatically is darker. But I don't like the effect, so I'd rather just build up the red. And so that's what I do. But we'll be coming, when we come back, we'll be sort of blushing him up, sort of like Alma's blushed. I blushed her, but she hasn't baked yet. See, she's got a little bit of something on her face right there. I don't know if that's from something in her sealer, or if it's from just a bad blushing job. I don't know. I may try to rub that a little bit and see if I can minimize it. At the she hasn't baked yet since I put this blush on. So it's possible that I can sort of decrease it a little. Sometimes when you're putting the blush on, it doesn't go on real evenly, and you have something of a weird mark on their face. And usually, if you don't fix it right then, when you put more colors on their face, it's going to just get darker and darker. And it looks like I'm not going to be able to get that off. I could put some paint thinner on it and try to take it off, but then I have to reblush her whole face. So likely I'll put a scratch there or something. I don't know yet. But she still needs to I started her off camera. She's had a couple coats of different things on her. She had her creasing, and she's had some blushing. But we'll be doing Logan together, blushing him and everything. But anyway, he's going to get a bake first, and when we come back, we'll start on his next steps. And so please remember, please, please, please like my videos, subscribe to my channel, and share my videos with someone else. And happy reborning.